Hi everybody, welcome back. I hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to Aquarius season and happy birthday. Excuse me for a second. Sorry about that. Happy birthday, Aquarius. I hope things are going well so far this month. There's a lot going on astrologically, and I've started doing the horoscopes and I'm going to post those. But I wanted to start the month off just talking about Aquarius season. I've been thinking a lot about it as I always do, and we hear and we talk about as we're on our journeys, and I work with clients and reflecting on my own experiences. And then learning astrology, it's like you hear and you read about the age of Aquarius. Oh, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And I was talking to my teacher a couple of weeks ago about that, and she said something that was really interesting that made me think a lot more about it. And she was like, "Yeah, astrology and astrologers and people in general have been throwing out the age of Aquarius for years now, and none of us really know, like, did it already show up? Is it still coming? What's going on there?" And so it made me think about it. And I thought, well, the age of Aquarius, and I understand, the combination of energies of what's going on in the history and in the world, how, it looks like, yes, we are coming to a culmination. We're coming to a change in society, which is Aquarius. It's our society. But aside from all of that, for me, when I think about astrology, the reality is there has always been an age of Aquarius. The opportunity and what we do with that is another thing, which is why I think we just keep waiting for it and waiting for it, because it will require a collective effort to actually embody the age of Aquarius using all of the opportunities and energies that we have available to us to bring it together, because Aquarius is the collective, it's the community, it's humanity at large, it's the melting pot. So it's putting lots of different pieces together, and there are so many buzzwords that we've used about that. We see the bumper stickers that say coexist. What does that really mean? It means something different to each of us. That's the thing. I see Aquarius ruled by Uranus, which is, bright ideas and, doing things differently than we've done before. But I see it as a relatability. Coming together as a collective, because Uranus is what's different and unusual. That means that we're all going to be different. We're all going to be unusual, and we're going to bring those things to the table. And for me, the what I think about is relatability. How do we relate to one another so that we can actually create that existence, or that existence, coexistence? How do we do that? I think, we've made strides. I think a lot of people are studying those things. But honestly, what keeps coming to me is we make that happen in a collective first by staying in our own lane. And I know there are probably going to be people that are going to go, what? What does that mean? Or maybe they're not going to like the fact that I said that. But let me qualify that. Staying in our lane. How can we come together, relate with other people, exercise our own individuality, feel free, and move those things into a newer age? And, new age is also a buzzword too, but when we're talking about newer age, we're talking about a different way of doing things. That includes technology. That includes, bringing our ideas to the table. It's just anything that's going to move us forward from where we were before. So when I say staying in your own lane, how do we do that? How do we relate to other people unless we can actually relate to ourselves first? And if we can't do that, and listen, that's a process. At least for me, it's an ongoing process in every situation, relationship, whatever you want to call it, that I come across. It's a challenge for me to learn how to integrate that into my own life, into my own reality. And, it can take a while and it doesn't always look pretty. So it's a constant process of evolution for all of us. But, people say as within, so without, as above, so below. That's very new agey lingo. But really, in a logical way, it's knowing yourself first. Do you understand where you're coming from, who you are, why you are the way that you are? What are your lessons that you need to learn? And keep revisiting that and then integrating a little bit more, because we all have access to Aquarian energy. Yes, Aquarius season comes around every February. We get to celebrate birthdays. I have 3 grandchildren who have, actually 4, that have Aquarius birthdays. So we get to do all of that. But every year, when the Aquarius season comes around, we have other planetary energies in there. So the flavor is a little different every time. Again, everything's a melting pot. But I believe that if we know ourselves and we're willing to open our mind to unusual and different ways of doing things and seeing things, and we look at one another as all having our own individual experiences, and that really we're probably, even though the stories look different or the color looks different or where we were looks different, we're all really not that different. And when we look at ourselves, like I look at myself and then situations that I've been in, and I'm like, okay, how is that, in that situation, as I'm thinking about Aquarius season, embodying Aquarius energy? How is that helping me understand Aquarius energy and the Aquarian age? And I look at again, there's like a higher expression, higher, not up here, and a lower expression of everything. And that is not a right or wrong. It's just, again, it's the evolutionary process that we start from. And we all start at different places. We all have strengths and weaknesses. And we move through and we try and understand. So when I come in contact with situations and people and relationships in my own life, and I try to think about, my personal reactions, what I would do, and then look around and everybody is different, and that's okay. And I think that's what we're supposed to do. But I think where we get stuck in that attempt to coexist and make things better, even though everybody individually may have, their heart might be in the right place. They're coming at least probably from an authentic place based on their experiences. I think the tweaking is, even though somebody else's story or belief may not make sense to you because it wasn't your experience, are we willing to sit back and say, okay, I'm good with the fact that that's your experience? Maybe somebody's experience is, that they want people to come together. They want to see the world solve problems together and for people to help one another. And they have really good intentions. But let's say their story is there's a trauma or a fear around something, that they're afraid of, and probably for good reason. And let's just say, for example, they see humanity, in the state that it's been in some cases. And their idea is, well, I want to bring people together. Good. I want to help people. Good. But are we bringing a little bit too much of our own personal experience? And we'll take fear as an example. That usually is created by trauma or upbringing, something that was embedded deep into our core, either through our ancestral DNA or our nervous system, as we learned when we were a child. And we think that, oh, this is the best way to bring people together. I understand this and I want to do this, but I'm bringing in my own fear and my own experience. And so are we really relating to one another? Are we really creating an environment where everybody can come together and things can be solved if we're just transferring our fear into the community and expecting them to understand it. Why? Because we're thinking, well, that's what feels good for me. That's what I see. And it probably is what's good for you and what you see. But are we seeing that and appreciating that from where everybody else is coming from? And when I think about Aquarius, I think that is something that I think we're working on and that we need to come into a little bit more before we can create that melting pot and we can move things forward in a way that I think universally is the goal and what we want to do. And so it's a practice, but we divide ourselves, I believe, when we fail to let people experience things the way that they need to. And as long as that's being done, because there has to be a level of order. Let's not forget that in astrology, Saturn, the Lord of Order, among other things, he was the traditional ruler of Aquarius. Yes, Uranus is now, and so we want to expand, we want to be creative, but we want to do that in a way that's responsible. And sometimes I think that's where we fail, but I think it's because we might alienate one another by not trying to see both sides or the depth of things. It's like we're just looking at it through, in tunnel vision. I see, and I mentioned this in my video, I see a lot of people, younger people, looking and paying attention to how they're feeling and what's going on inside of them. A lot of younger people are voluntarily saying, okay, I want to do something soulful. I want to do something that means something to me and that can help people. And when you look at the generational planets and how that affects certain generations, you can say Capricorn, for instance, and we're talking Aquarius and Uranus and Saturn, but it's an evolutionary process. And like I said, every February we experience different planetary energies that are mixed in, but they all play a part, because that when we read astrology, it's like the evolution and the bringing together and integration of that we all have access to. So I was thinking, okay, so we have, because I have a fascination with Neptune. And so we think generationally, Neptune, we had Neptune and Capricorn, that generation. My kids were born in that generation. And that was a generation that really believed strongly that they were going to break the barriers that society has created for them. They were going to do things differently. Music changed. Their beliefs and viewpoints changed. It was no longer let's try to fit a square peg in a round hole, where society has wanted that structure. And there was a time where society did live that way, and in some ways cohesively, historically, but things change, evolution. And, I remember when my kids were in school, it's like, oh, if they learn differently, if it doesn't fit the curriculum, well, they need ADHD medicine or they need this. And then, start to create this anxiety in trying to bring people together. This is just an example. And then you have a generation that is like, no, I don't believe that. And we see that evolving. And then we have the newer generation coming around, where we have a Neptune in Aquarius. If you have children born from 1998 to 2021, Neptune in Aquarius wants to really expand, but it's in a spiritual way. And they're not as uptight about all of the structures. They are looking more at authentic and unique ways of doing things, and they're more laid back. And then we have, people like me who come from a different generation, or, the structures in the government, like, no, you can't do things like that. Or now we have bred a generation of laziness. Well, no, These kids, I have a grandson that has a lot of Aquarius placements, including North Node and Neptune and his Chiron. And they're very contemplative. Uranus rules Aquarius. And Neptune in Aquarius affects Aquarius. There's a flavor, again, it's all integration. And that generation, I believe, and I see it, is going to be more contemplative, more innovative. They're going to find different ways of mixing and mingling and growing their lives and relating to people. And they are more loyal to people, but at the same time, they believe in freedom and they're more laid back. And so you see, as these generations start to turn, that society starts to change. And it's not just about Aquarius, but maybe the way to reach anything collectively, Aquarius, the collective, is to combine energies, to look at ourselves first and how we're affecting the collective. It's like, again, stay in our own lane, work on ourselves first, and then try and understand and relate to other people, and know that that range is huge. Just because you don't come from where I come from and you don't look the way that I look, or any number of reasons that make us different, doesn't mean we can't work with one another. And that's what Aquarian means to me. And I watch a lot of YouTube. I follow a lot of astrologers. Intuitive people, and I take pieces of everything that they say, and I understand. Even though a lot of us, including myself, probably focusing on one thing, because what we're putting out there is our experience. And I think that's part of what we're supposed to be doing, is sharing our experiences and our take, so that there's exposure and we can start to consider different sides. We have a choice whether or not to do that, but I think that's the idea. And so for me, I think that's how we reach the age of Aquarius. And then, we have people that, again, back to, I lost my train of thought, but people like me and other people that I watch talking about, we'll just take the astrology, for instance. This is what we need. I hear this so much. We need to do this. Time is running out. We have to elevate, raise our consciousness, ascend. Lots of good advice. How do we do that? We detach. Aquarius can be very detached emotionally, which is great, because that means if we can detach from somebody else's outcome, from somebody else's experience, that's a good thing, because then we can let people do their own thing. But if we detach too much and we're bringing in too much of our own experience and then trying to go in and make a difference or force people or tell people what they need to do, then we're bringing our experiences in and putting them on other people, then thinking, well, hey, what's the problem? Why is everybody not happy? This is perfect. Well, it's perfect for you. I think if we're doing things like that, as long as we're not hurting one another, like I said, there's the Saturnian effect, in the ruler of Aquarius, where we do want to keep things responsible and, of integrity. And yeah, we're working on that as a society too. But, I find that I've been confused, and that just may be the way that my mind works logically. I have to understand in very simple logical terms what that means. Okay, so I need to ascend. That's great. I need to follow my life's purpose. That's great. How do I find that? Like, break it down for me. Because I'm living in a practical world. I have bills to pay. I have job that I have to do. I have all of these things. So where do I find time to go, to do this? And some people say, well, meditation works for me. Reading this works for me. Studying this practice works for me. And for me personally, I'm like, yeah, I can't start there because I'm a thinker. And I just overthink. Well, probably I do, but that's what works for me. Maybe it doesn't work. Sorry, I lost my computer there for a minute. Maybe it doesn't work that way for everybody else, but that's what I need to do. And what I understand is that everybody has a different way of learning and comprehending and experiencing things. And so some of those types of practices may not work for everybody because they're in the real world. You know, when you're talking about single mothers out there or college students trying to just get through and figure out where their tuition is coming from, or just paying the electric bill, you know, and worrying because, you know, that might be the day before it's going to be turned off, or if our kids are having trouble, how are we going to do that? We don't, a lot of times those things don't register. It's like everybody, we want to get there, we want to elevate, but how do we do that? And I believe that, and I'm looking at the astrology, it's like our soul's path. When I saw my own astrology and I started learning, it's like, oh my gosh, like there's my life right there. Validation. Oh, that's how I think. It's okay. Um, it started to move me forward. Like it opened up my mind. And I think that's where the magic starts because it's an ongoing process that everybody has to go through, which is okay. And that, you know, you have to be willing, I have to be willing to look at the ugly, probably more so, and accept that, not just for myself, but from the people around me, and understand that everybody has a valuable piece to bring, even though they're different than I am. And that to me is ascension. That to me is part of elevating our collective, is starting there in the world that we live in. Practicing and doing it however we choose or need to, but bringing that in and settling into ourselves and understanding ourselves. And then if we're feeling more settled and we understand ourselves better, that's going to come out to everybody else. But if we're trying to embody the Aquarian energy and bring people together in a way where we're detaching emotionally in the wrong way, or wrong is probably not the right word, but in a way that just works for us, what are we trying to accomplish? Because it takes everybody, Aquarius, it takes everybody, not just one. I mean, there are no heroes in the Aquarian energy. If we break everybody down and we start to worship one person or bring people, it's like, that doesn't work either. So what is exciting for me in practicing astrology and working with people is that I see the generations coming up and people that are going through transition periods in their life, nodal returns, what, you know, issues with their family, all of the things that we've had to deal with the last few years in the society, starting to think about things differently. And I really talked about that in my last video, so I won't keep going there. But we are looking for different ways, different avenues. It's not so much about structure or what's right. It seems like the younger generations coming up, if they're given an environment where their thinking is appreciated, they're looking for different ways to educate themselves and find careers that actually are true to who they are, but also help people. It's like, I want to find my soul's purpose. I've heard that so many times. I want to know what my career path would be, but I want to tap into what spirituality means to me. All of that comes together. See, I find that very encouraging. So I have hope that if we can continue to stay in our lane, work on ourselves, try and see things from different sides, that's how we come together. And I listen to a lot of speakers on YouTube that actually talk about these things like this, and I appreciate those the most because let's face it, this is the real world, and that's what we're living in. And bringing spirituality and reality together in a way that makes sense for everybody is, I think, each and every one of our jobs in a way to serve ourselves, our families, and the people around us, which is everybody, whether we know their names or not. And we are all going to come from different places and have different beliefs. And it's okay. And that is where I think we might get stuck sometimes. So when I think of Aquarius, I think of it's always been there. We've always had the opportunity to create an Aquarian age. It's been here. Why? Because there's always been a collective and a community. It's just, what are we going to do with it? Are we going to take advantage of how we integrate that within ourselves and then for everybody else? So, yeah, that's what I think. Staying in our own lane. And I explained what that meant to me. So that's what it means to me today as I've been contemplating. So hopefully that makes sense to you. If not, that's great. You know, that's what I started a YouTube channel and astrology business for, is to be able to share my story and my take. And I think some people will want to listen and it'll resonate, and maybe it won't, which is totally cool. It's like, I would love to have these conversations and even debates about differing opinions and then walk away being okay. So I'm going to do those things on my channel. Those are, I want to be able to show that we all have something important to give, that our perspectives are all important. And yeah, we might need to help each other sort of get a little further along the path, and we'll come together, and then we'll go back out and, you know, do some, you know, experience some of our own individuality, and then come back together and share things, and then go back out. That to me is ascension. That's creating a healthier community, diversity. And, you know, sometimes that's a stretch, because sometimes we can be worlds apart from one another, but we can make an effort to understand. And again, I think if we stay in our own lane and learn about ourselves, it softens you up. It's like, all of the things that we're working to fit into may all of a sudden not be as important, at least in the material. I've seen those changes, and when I do readings for a lot of younger people, it's really interesting how so many of the readings that come to me, the requests, and people that I end up working with, are people that are very similar, have very similar stories. A lot of very young girls that are on their own for one reason or another and trying to figure things out. And I resonate with that, because that was me then, you know. And it's not, the position is not to tell people what to do. That's not what I do. It's like, well, I'm reading astrology and trying to have a conversation and relate to somebody. And I can give suggestions and say, oh, what about this? And 9 times out of 10, it's like, oh, yeah, I really like to do that. Or, oh, I had this experience. Or, oh, yes, I'm walking away thinking about this. But I can't tell you or anybody, no, this is what you have to do to get here. I can help them understand their own soul map, their own life purpose, and how it looks in the astrology, but it's up to them to find it. But that journey of looking to find it, and through your experiences, is what creates a change. It's what creates the changes in us, and then again, how we relate to everybody else. So thank you to anybody who's come to me for a reading, looking for that. I just keep seeing that over and over again. They're all related. Career, soul's path, spirituality, it's all related. And I think the more we integrate those things and realize that they're not separate, the more that humanity will grow and get better. You know, I don't look through things in rose-colored glasses. I'm not saying that's going to be easy. But I do prefer to look at the possibilities and the upside. And because I think if I don't do that, then it's like throw your hands up in the air, you know? So if you want to see where to start for yourself, when we're talking about the astrology, look in your chart. Where does Aquarius hit in your chart? What area of life is that? What house is that in? Also look at where Uranus sits in your chart. What sign is that in? What area of life is that in? That's a good start. Of course, in every birth chart, the synthesis of that, like how it all talks and works together, is, really where the magic is. But start there, and figure out what was the intention of my soul. How am I supposed to learn to do that through my experiences? I have Aquarius on my midheaven, which is, career. It is your public image. It's, your high level commitments. I have my midheaven at 29 degrees of Aquarius. So 29 degrees is the later degree. So it's like, the clock is ticking for me. I need to learn how to do this. It also means that maybe, if I'm lucky, I might be able to recall or remember that I have experienced, and I have a little bit of, I've got my feet wet. So really, for me, there shouldn't be an excuse as to why I can't pull that together. But I truly do believe, and I always have believed, that each person should be respected individually for their experiences and not judged by what they look like on the outside. And I didn't always feel comfortable vocalizing that. I can remember, many, many years ago, 25, 30 years ago, when I got my first job, in healthcare, because that was the career that I have done or did for, over 30 years. And I got my first job in a hospital as a manager, and I was so young. And I come from a background where I was adopted. I didn't even know what my ethnic background was, and I had a crazy childhood. I didn't have any basis or experience by which to judge anybody. I didn't want to share my experience because I felt like I didn't fit in. So for so many years, I'm not talking to people about what I went through, because then that would make me different. So when I get this job, it's like, I really believe that everybody was equal, and I really tried to appreciate everybody. Now, listen, I brought some of my own fear in from my childhood, where if there was something that was scary or a little bit too dark, I wanted to shy away. And, as I've gotten older and realized that boundaries are important, that's sort of like, I've been able to relax that. But I really did feel that way. My first assignment as a manager, when I was 25 years old, was to put a presentation together that was talking about how you make a first impression, your professional image, and how important that was. And in corporate America, that was all about making yourself look a certain way to fit in to a certain mold. And I have to tell you, well, first of all, not only was I scared to death to talk in front of people at that age, I was like, oh gosh, but it felt so unsettling to me to have to do that based on where I had come from in my life and who I was and what I truly believed in. And I swore, just from stage fright alone, because there were going to be like 200 people at this presentation, from stage fright alone, I was like sure that I was going to quit my job the night before. But I had little kids and I was on my own and I couldn't. So just like many of us, we do what we have to do. Again, the world of reality. And that's how we grow and learn. And then hopefully along our journeys, we find our boundaries, we find our truth, and we are in a situation that, or we feel like, okay, it doesn't really matter. Like all of that stuff can fall away. In terms of trying to fit in. But, back then, I did what I had to do. It went fine. But I found myself doing something just for a job. It really wasn't who I was. And, in my career, a lot of what I did sort of covered up who I truly was. But I did feel that and was able to get through those lessons and that life experience, because I really felt like whatever it was that I did, even though behind the scenes it was hard for people to tell where that really came from, who I really was, that I was doing it for the right reasons. Uh, but that was an experience. It's like, oh, there it is, fitting a square or square peg or in a round hole or vice versa. But it was something I needed to experience for myself. And what it did was it gave me a stronger conviction, and over time reflecting on that, of how really I truly did believe that none of that mattered, that we could all come together. It didn't matter what your clothes look like or where you came from socially. And I learned that over and over again until I got to a place in my career where I actually was free and independent enough to be able to say that and then make a choice. And I know that that's not everybody's path. This is mine. So I'm explaining, like, if you look in your chart where Aquarius is, mine is in the midheaven. That was my lesson, was to experience those things and learn that diversity and appreciation is what, for me, will help me understand the collective and fit into humanity, and maybe do my little teeny tiny part to express my experience and help bring people in if they resonate with what I have to say. And if they don't, it's totally okay. I'm here to listen to you. But we all need to be nice, right? We can be honest, and stand in our own truth, but we need to be appreciative and nice to one another where that's concerned. So that's my Aquarius. That's my take on Aquarius, and I'd love to hear yours. You can put a comment in the down below, and I would love to read them. And if you're interested in looking at how to embody your Aquarian energy and anything in your birth chart, what your soul's purpose is, how to reach your own level of spirituality, because it's different for everybody, and that will include, and what your career path might be, what truly, get some clues as to exactly how everything fits together for you. Get a hold of me. I'd love to read for you. I've had such an awesome and fulfilling experiences up to this point reading for other people, and breaking that down and getting to know people. So I'd love to do that for you. You can email me at geminifire65@msn.com, and I also have an Etsy shop now. You can find that at Jovi's Star Astrology. And by the way, I think I'm going to drop the soul, not because this isn't a soulful project for me, because it is, but it's, people are having a hard time finding it, and I might need to drop the apostrophe between the V and the S, because for some reason on the search it requires that, and it's in there. So I don't know, I'm playing with that, I'll figure it out. But I would love to read for you. If you want, I'm going to give a free reading away this month. I've been doing that every month. And so I would usually do it during the zodiacs. You comment the zodiac sign, but I think this month what I'm going to do is have you comment on this video in the comments, Aquarius, and you've got to subscribe, because I really need subscribers, and I want to this is my way of bringing people together. And yes, of course it helps me, but that's what it's all about, right? I help you, you help me, we work with one another. So subscribe, like, and share. I would be very grateful. Comment in the down below, Aquarius, and at the end of the month I will do a drawing for somebody and do a free reading. So that's it. I am going to start putting out the horoscopes. I know they're a little bit late. It's been a little bit crazy, but I've got so many things going on in my head, and I'm probably letting myself be pulled in too many different directions, but I will get them out. And thank you to everybody that watched the video on the Taurus North Node, Scorpio South Node. Thank you for watching the video that Tracy over at TR's Tarot talk 1111, and Whitney at Accurate AF and I did. That was so much fun, and people really enjoyed the coming together of different viewpoints and different personalities. We found, and I was really, really encouraged by the fact that the feedback that we got, that that was something that people really enjoyed. Keep an eye out for another group collaboration that we're working on, and the plan is to get that out this weekend on the United States Pluto return. And I'll be back throughout the month to talk about some of the transits that are happening this month that are exciting. And that's it, right? That's it. I just wanted to come on. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for coming back. And I will see you soon. May the stars forever be in your favor.